money does help buy happiness, but it only gets you so far. If you're got a lot of money in the bank, but you don't have any time to spend doing the things that you love most with the people that you care about most, what is it really worth?
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds Podcast, brought to you by Advanced Services and Fuse Networks. My name is Galen.
I'm Joe.
We're coming at you from the Creative Block Studios in Seattle, Washington. So, Joe, for our new listeners and viewers tuning in for the first time, how do we start our podcast?
Sure. Started out as a Facebook group page. The purpose was to bring on different businesses to kind of talk and communicate with one another. Because we're a marketing agency, we get asked a lot of questions about topics other than marketing. And so we thought what a better way and kind of a selfish way is to start a podcast, bring on different guest speakers to talk about any and all topics related to being a business.
Awesome. And Joe, can you tell us who we have today and what we're talking about?
We have Mr. TJ Murphy out of beautiful Bend, Oregon from Height Agency, so a fellow digital marketing agency. The topic today is building a business around your lifestyle. So everyone, welcome TJ.
Hey, it's great to be here, guys. Yeah, appreciate you having me.
So to get started, can you just do a quick intro of what you do, how you got started?
Yeah, definitely. So TJ Murphy, I own a digital marketing agency called Height Digital. I'm also a self-proclaimed adventurous entrepreneur, which we'll get into the definition of here in a minute, but it's the name of my podcast. And like you guys, love to bring people on and really talk about designing your business around the lifestyle that you love and really building it in a way that gives you the freedom that you ultimately sought to create when you started a business. So I'd love to dive into that today.
How did you get started with your agency?
So it was born out of really a desire to create more freedom in my life. My wife and I were on the corporate 9-to-5 grind for a number of years, living in the Bay Area, and travel was always something that we had wanted to do together. So one day we were sitting down kind of thinking about what is this next chapter of our life going to look like? And we decided we were going to leave the Bay Area, quit our jobs, sell off most of our belongings. And what we ultimately did was buy a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, where we backpacked together for about a year and a half. And during that time, I saw it as an opportunity to kind of have a runway of time where I could start to build the foundation of a business so that when I came back to the States, I wouldn't have to polish up my resume and live in a city and grind it out for the next 30 years. So fast forward, that was back in 2017. I built this agency and have made a lot of wrong turns along the way in creating that freedom, but have finally gotten to a place where we're able to serve people from wherever we want to be in the world and do it in a way that really gives us the value of flexibility and freedom, which was ultimately my goal.
You truly are, you live by that adventurous entrepreneur. I mean, you've lived it. So that's as true a label as you could put on yourself. So
you're saying it, but I love to use that term. And it's something that I feel like most people don't ever realize. They start a business to create more freedom for themselves, but what ends up happening is they really just created a job. So there's a good way of going about it and a wrong way of going about it.
So let's get into it, ask some questions. So what are some early lessons learned as that adventurous entrepreneur?
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier, made a lot of wrong turns and mistakes early on. And I was definitely a victim of building a business that really was just more than full-time job for myself. If you asked my friends and family, they would have said, "Oh, TJ's killing it. He's built a business. He's able to bring home over 6 figures and, only a year of being in business." But meanwhile, what's TJ doing? He's working on the weekends. He's working late into the evenings and putting in way more hours than he'd ever want to put in for somebody else. And really just on a spiral towards burnout. So the biggest mistake that I made early on was just jumping in without a real solid plan of how I wanted my life to look day in and day out once I was in business. and building it in a way that would give me the flexibility and freedom, and also doing it in a way that would make it easier to do the work in the beginning to learn it, but then hand it off to people that are better at doing it than myself. So partly that was my ego getting in the way, just wanting to have my hands in everything, not willing to relinquish control, but eventually, realized, hey, I've got to learn how to ask for help better. So hiring coaches, finding some mentorship, and through that, getting more comfortable, realizing that I don't have to figure this out all out on my own. There are people that have done this before. There are rules and processes to follow that are already tried and true. So as I got that help and started being able to ask for the help that I needed, and ultimately surround myself around a fellow tribe of other agency owners who are all working towards the same common goals, that's when things really started to click in. And no longer was I working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, but I was building a real business that didn't need me to be the cog that kept things moving day in and day out.
Nice. So in your journey, what's been the best piece of advice you've been given?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the best piece of advice that I've been given is just learning to ask for help. And I'm going to preach on this one because growing up, my parents weren't always the best at doing this. So I kind of learned through osmosis that we got to figure this out on our own. We got to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. But what I've come to realize is that through being comfortable with the uncomfortableness of asking for help, that's how you're truly able to create shortcuts, not just in business, but in life. Whether you're stuck on the side of the road and beating yourself up and unwilling to wave someone down and ask for help, or you're sitting in your business really pushing towards burnout and about to throw it in and not willing to find people that can really give you the support that you need. When you ask for help, it's surprising how often people really do care enough and want to give back and help you get to where you want to go. So definitely the best piece of advice I've received.
Awesome. And our last question, one of our favorites, is why is marketing important?
Why is marketing important? Well, because if nobody knows what it is that you do, how are they ever going to buy from you? And if you're not finding the right avenues, building a brand, and telling the story of how you're able to help people, well, you're probably not going to be too successful in business. So building a strong marketing foundation, it's not going to look the same for everybody. It's got to be unique to your industry, unique to your unique business and the people within it. And ultimately, it boils down to how can you really tell that story in a way that differentiates you from the hundreds of other competitors all vying for the same customer base out there in your market.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now we come to the part of our podcast, our A Advanced Services Pump You Up Quote of the Day. We'll read the quote, then get your thought on it, TJ. So,
yeah,
Joe, can
let's
you
do
please?
it.
The goal isn't more money. The goal is living a life on your terms. Chris Brogan.
Yeah, I love this one. At the end of the day, money does help buy happiness, but it only gets you so far. If you got a lot of money in the bank, but you don't have any time to spend doing the things that you love most with the people that you care about most, what is it really worth? So people talk a lot about work-life balance, and I don't like that as much because when you think of balance, you think of a scale, and when one thing gets a little heavier, it's going to push the other one out of proportion. So depending on the season that you're in, having a blend of business or your work life and your personal life and creating some rules and some habits to be able to make sure that you have the time to prioritize doing those things that you love most with the people that you care about most. That's the ultimate currency that at least I'm after. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now we come to our Fuse Network's Did You Know segment.
Millions of cybercriminals are out there on a daily basis trying to steal your information. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Small businesses account for 58% of cyber attacks annually. So help your company fight cybercrime and mitigate risk by being proactive. Call Fuse Networks, your local Seattle IT experts at 206-701-6040 for a complimentary IT network and security assessment.
So we asked TJ to provide a couple myths to us. We will read them to you, then get your thought.
Yep.
Mr.
All right, let's
Zeman,
do
you
it.
want to start, please?
It's all about working less.
It's all about working less. Well, depending on the season that you're in, especially if you're young and you're getting started in your career, in your business, working less isn't going to get you where you want to go. There is a time to grind. There is a time to hustle. And if you really want to excel and build something that is great, it's going to take time. And, again, designing it in a way where you're going to work hard early, but you're going to do it to be able to learn and create the right system, the right product, and have a plan to then remove yourself and hand off the reins to people that can carry on and build this thing and let it grow and thrive without you needing to be the one putting those man hours in. That's really
Right.
what it takes.
Which leads into the next one of you could do it all on your own.
Yeah, you can maybe, but you're going to be miserable like I was. Early on, your ego can be your biggest enemy. And if you think that you have to figure it all out on your own, well, you're going to be doing it the slowest way possible. When you learn to ask for help, when you surround yourself with the right people, you seek out the right mentorship, that's when you can start to make shortcuts and do something in a couple hours or a couple weeks that might have taken you a year plus to accomplish on your own.
So let's get into it a little more. So building a business around your lifestyle. So people tuning into this episode, everyone's lifestyle is different, right? So when people or fellow business owners now are listening to this, they own a business, they have their business life and their personal life. What do you see business owners do wrong when they think of either putting everything around the business and then no lifestyle, or is it, the other way around? What are your observations with the businesses that you've worked with?
Yeah, what I find the most is that most business owners haven't really put the time and attention into really thinking about what they want from it, where they want to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Do they want to sell this company? Do they want to pass it on to their family? Do they just want to use it as a vehicle to create wealth and stability for them until they get to the point where they want to retire? And in every season, it's going to look different. But if you know what your ultimate outcome is going to be and you understand what's important, where your values really are, for me, I like to have the flexibility to go mountain biking on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon with a group of friends, or on a Friday, cut out early and go to the mountain in the wintertime. And to be able to do that, I have to have built things in a way where I don't need to be present all the time. And I can block out time on my schedule to prioritize those things. And, doesn't mean I'm gone every Wednesday or every Friday afternoon, but having the forethought to put that on your calendar and to be able to trust and have people in place to keep things running when you step out. If that's something that you're interested in, if that's something that you want to be able to realize in your life, you have to build out the systems ahead of time. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there week in and week out doing the same thing, working long hours and potentially being miserable. But that's not the case for everybody. Some people do want to work a lot and grow this thing as much as they possibly can. And depending on what your family life looks like, what responsibilities you have outside of work, that might be okay. But unless you have the forethought to put a plan in place and really visualize what you want your week to look like, what you want your day to look like, what you want the next 5 years to look like, it's really hard to be able to do it in the moment.
So, I've heard different things with business owners almost doing the opposite, where they get stuck in the grind, where, well, I have to do this. I have to do this. They have to wear the 8 hats, where they only have space for one. But the time consumes their day when family's second. Like what's almost like the straw that breaks the camel's back is there something you could share with these people just to like, you're like, wake up, you got to stop doing this. Is there the moment?
Yeah.
I mean, because, you've seen it too, right? I mean, if it's a business you've inherited or you built up where you're the main asset and it's hard to let go control, because you're the one that makes everything go. Like what's that thing to the impetus to, all right, go get help, or you need to change what you're doing. You have a family, you don't want to miss the events in your kid's life. Well, I mean, what is that, the next step, the crossover move to, turn the page in your business life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, when you own a business, you could fill every single hour of the day if you wanted to. There's always more work to be done.
More to do. Yeah.
There's always more to do. So especially if you're the type that is more of a workaholic, that can be a dangerous path to go down. And especially if you have a family, especially if you have commitments and responsibilities outside of your business, I think the straw is going to look different for everybody that ultimately breaks the camel's back. But if you're somebody who is missing your kids' baseball game, their choir recital, you're forgetting your wife's and your anniversary, you're not able to have a weekly date night or spend time with your friends on the weekend, if that's important to you, it's probably time to look into the mirror and think really long and hard about where your actual best use is in the business. Where is the point of the business? What are the activities, the tasks that really create the greatest impact, the biggest revenue generating activities, the best use of your time? And when you can understand what those specific actions are that only you can do, where your highest output is, then it becomes a lot easier to say, all right, well, I'm not a marketing expert. Maybe I shouldn't have the marketing hat on. I'm not good at hiring and HR. Maybe I should outsource that as well. I don't need to be the one picking up the phone. I can hire someone to do that. Or look, I actually already have someone in the office and I'm doing their job for them and I don't even realize it. And they're probably going to leave because they're not fulfilled in this role. They're not having opportunities to learn, grow, and advance. So when you can understand where your time needs to be put and where it could be better put on someone else's shoulders, that's really the first step. And if you're on that road to burnout, you're not having the time that you want to have to spend it with your family, let's figure out who the right people are to put the hat on. And whether that's an outside agency, whether that's hiring internally, whether it's bringing in a VA or a contractor to fulfill certain roles, it's going to differ depending on your business type and your needs and how big you are. But the quicker you can remove those hats from your shoulders and put it onto somebody who loves that, they live and breathe it, they know it well, and they're staying on top of what they need to do to be effective, you're going to find that your business is going to grow a lot better. You're going to be a lot happier, and you're going to have more time to do the things that really matter in life.
So let's go back to talking about you a little bit. So you worked in the corporate world. What did you do in the corporate world?
Yeah, that's great. So upon graduation, I moved down to the Bay Area. My wife graduated one term before me, so she got a job working for a startup in Berkeley, and I followed her down. We got to move in together, living together for the very first time, and I thought I had this great opportunity. I was going to be a marketing consultant working for a big marketing firm in the city. But quickly, reality came crashing down. It's like, TJ, you don't have any meaningful marketing consulting experience. You have a degree. You had more fun in college than really applying yourself into meaningful internships and real world experience. So yeah, no one's going to hire you. But it took a couple weeks of doing the interviews and getting politely turned down to kind of realign where I was going to have my start. So ultimately, I ended up getting a great opportunity. I worked for a big property management company and became their marketing manager. And specifically, I was working at one of their properties in Alameda, California. Big outdoor shopping center, over 100 tenants. So big box stores like Macy's and Trader Joe's, all the way down to small mom and pop businesses, and mostly small mom and pop businesses. So what this ended up giving me was an opportunity and a crash course in all things marketing for small businesses, because outside of my responsibilities for the center itself, putting on all of our events, managing our PR, all of our digital advertising, I was the go-to for all of our tenants who had marketing questions. Hey, how do we use social media effectively? What is SEO? How can we drive more foot traffic to our store? So I didn't know at the time, but I got a lot of great experience and applied myself to learning the craft and becoming an expert in social media, Facebook ads, Google advertising, SEO, all of the things that we help our small business clients with today. And, I alluded to it earlier. It was great for a time, but quickly we realized that living in the big city wasn't really our cup of tea. We both grew up in small town Oregon, thriving outdoors, easy access to camping and mountain biking, skiing, all the things that we love to do. And that was a lot harder living in Berkeley and then downtown Oakland, California. So we knew we wanted to have a location change, and there wasn't a whole lot of upward trajectory in that role. So it served its purpose. Ultimately, said what I did earlier. We quit those jobs and went on this grand adventure to Southeast Asia. And that's when I started the business.
So basically you said, this is what I want my life to be, and not what I want my life to be, but this is what my life is going to be. I need to create something or create a business around basically having the freedom to go do whatever I want to do, correct?
Yeah. I mean, selfishly, that was definitely part of it. The other piece was just building something that would allow me to serve a community. At first, I didn't know what that community was going to be. Ultimately, I landed on the small business community, and especially local to where I am, because, for me, being able to help a small business here in my own backyard, now Bend, Oregon, not only do I get to see the results within their company, creating more stability for their employees and supporting their families, but the ripple effect that has translating into them being able to give back more in the community, sponsoring a little league team, donating to their favorite nonprofit, putting on events for, the homeless community, whatever it might look like. Getting to actually see that result from the efforts that we put in is what ultimately
for you.
I find is the most gratification. So as things progress, that kind of became the vision that I put up on the board. And going back to kind of that transitional time with my wife, when we were thinking about what we wanted to do next, one of the things we did was just create this massive vision board that we put up in front of our bed. And part of it had like starting a business, but it also had a lot of the elements that today our life really does look like, being able to go skiing, travel with our friends, volunteer and give back in our community, have time together to go on, multiple date nights a week. Those were all things that we had up on that board, and being able to see it every day gave us the energy and really planted the seed to then manifest that and make it a reality.
That's awesome. I want to go back to something from the did you know, the myth section. You can do it all on your own. So what was one of the first hats that you relinquished when you couldn't do it all on your own?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me was the fulfillment side. So as you guys know, also marketing agency owners, when you have a lot of services that you're offering, there's a lot of work to be done. So in the beginning, I was building the website. I was running the social media, both organic and paid. I was doing all the SEO work, and that's a lot. It's a lot of work. So the first thing I needed to do was allow myself to focus on where my best utility was, the revenue generating activities, sales and marketing, getting out into the community, building relationships with my community and our clients. So the very first thing was outsourcing and bringing in people to actually be the expert and understand what needs to happen with the SEO campaign, build out the social media presence, run the digital ads. And that freed up the most of my time to focus on what I do best, which is ultimately the relationship side of things.
Awesome.
Also, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. So those are two hats that I never even tried to touch. But I definitely recommend that hire people to help with the legal and the financial side as quickly as you can, because you can can run into a lot of trouble and lose a lot of money if you don't have a firm grip on those two pieces of your business.
So tell us the story behind the name of your agency. Is there a story behind the name?
Yeah. So my first company was actually called Thrive Marketing, which kind of took a play on Internet Explorer. Like growing up, that was the browser of choice that we had. So it had the like E emblem in there. So I took E to be representative of internet marketing. Thrive, that was just kind of a buzzword in my life. Like I'm doing all things to thrive, have more freedom. I want to help my clients thrive as well. So that Thrive was born out of that. Grew that company for a number of years ultimately, and this kind of ties into what pathway do you need to take to create more freedom if that's what you're looking for. For me, I grew this business, but I struggled with letting go and finding the right team members. I tried hiring contractors, using some white label companies early on to handle the fulfillment side, but never felt comfortable, never really fully relinquished control, and hired a coach at one point who was an early franchisee with Height Digital. So we're actually a digital marketing franchise. And I took my first company that I'd grown for 3 years, and after kind of vetting out Height and meeting the CEO, meeting the team, ultimately decided to merge my business in and partner. So now I'm the owner of Height Digital Bend. We have locations all around the country and we serve clients nationwide, but my, company, my brand is based here in Bend. So Height is actually the name of our CEO, JC Height.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. So like we like to work with small business owners, contractors. Who are your favorite types of clients to work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Personally, I love like adventure tour companies, things in the outdoors. So we work with some rafting outfitters, work with some different tour agencies throughout Oregon. And those are ones that I'm just more passionate about because I love doing that type of stuff. But really our bread and butter, like you guys, we work with a lot of trades, contractors, especially a lot of roofers, plumbers, HVAC, electricians, design build companies. And, for us, our strong suit is search engine marketing. And when you're in the trades and have a service-based company, Google is your best friend. So that's where we have the best success. And that's really where we're able to serve those types of clients the best.
Nice.
So let me ask you one last question. So in your years of being like an agency owner, what's been your greatest success story?
Oh, I think kind of selfishly, my greatest success has been just being able to be more present in my marriage and having the more freedom to treat my wife and travel together and spend time with our families. Both of our parents we're getting older, and especially over the last couple of years, we've both realized that our time with them is getting more and more finite. So being able to really prioritize family and time together for me that's the epitome of success. So definitely my proudest achievement is being able to create that for myself and for both of us.
Nice.
Great answer. Yeah.
So if people are looking to get a hold of you, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so you can find all things TJ Murphy at tjmurphy.me. It's going to link out to all my social media channels, Height Digital, my podcasts, Adventurous Entrepreneurs, and a few other fun things in there. So it's kind of the good link tree to connect with me.
Well, you mentioned your podcast. We didn't ask about it. So give a quick plug to your podcast of audience, and what it's like. Give us the kind of the 30-second commercial of your podcast.
Yeah, happy to. So bring on adventurous entrepreneurs and really look at it through the lens of the hero's journey. We all set out on this grand adventure of starting a business, but it's not a linear path. There's wrong turns, there's lessons learned, there's pitfalls that we fall into, there's our mentors, our Gandalfs that help lead us along the way. So using that theme to really tease out the lessons and insights to help people who are either thinking about starting a business, haven't gotten gotten started. They're ready to take the leap and want to learn from others who've been successful and done it in a way that they've been able to create that lifestyle, that freedom, and give back in meaningful ways. And then also for established business owners, entrepreneurs who are just eager to continue to learn and grow. We bring on people from all disciplines, all walks of life. And for me, it's just a great way to continue to learn myself. And I know if I'm learning, I'm passing on some good nuggets to people that are listening in as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I love the Lord of the Rings reference. So
I'm a
Gandalf the Grey,
big
Gandalf the White.
Tolkien fan. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want
exactly.
to get too geeky, but
Yeah, we
that's
could
cool.
nerd out on Lord of the Rings all day, but
Yeah.
another podcast perhaps.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of our sponsors, A Advanced Services and Fuse Networks, my name is Galen.
I'm Joe.
Coming at you from the Creative Block Studios in Seattle, Washington, and all the way from Bend, Oregon. TJ Murphy, thanks for joining us today. It was awesome. Pacific Northwest represent. And thanks everyone for watching and tuning into this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, TJ.